good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We have people here, Leo and Matt. We got Kaj and Boktai and Brock, Sensitive Stoic, Kivo, Doonsy Punk. I think you might know Doonsy Punk. AZ Beauty, new to us. Well, thank you for that follow. Who else we got in here? Karate Froggy, Ishwa, Rexius. Just Rex. He wants to be all fancy. Billy Bits here. We got a lot of people here today. Ratoto, welcome. Welcome on in. So, I'm Banjo. Good to see you guys. I'm so glad that people came on out to meet these guys. For those who don't know, this is Leo and Matt, and they are, I guess, founders, primary driving force, and I don't know. They have a lot of roles they'll tell you about in a bit, but behind the indie game dev company, Seven Sentinels Gaming. So we're really excited to have you guys here. I know that your studio has been making some waves in kind of Southwest USA with your first game that's currently in development. And we're really excited to hear more about it. And we also know that the last year has maybe slowed things down for a lot of that kind of stuff, as far as at least getting the game out there. So we're really glad to have you here to talk about how it's going and all that kind of stuff. So I guess, how did Seven Sentinels come to be? What got you into this?
Yeah, so I'm Leo, by the way. This is
Excellent.
Matt. Seven Sentinels started about 2015, I guess would be the official start when I called Matt up and I was like, hey, I'm finally gonna make a video game. Come snow, wind, me falling out of a tree, I don't care. Like I was gonna make a game at this point. So called him up. I told him I'm going to work on this little project. It was supposed to take 2 weeks, and we're here 6 years later with an expanded scope and a much larger game than what we originally was planning for. But love it. We're here. So I am the creative director, also the lead programmer for Seven Sentinels. Matt, you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Matt, like Leo said. I'm the project manager. For the most part, handle just making sure that we're on target, that we're accomplishing the things that we need to accomplish, and getting them done within the time frame we set for ourselves. Also do some sourcing of audio, taking care of some of the business needs, and just keeping the distractions away from the rest of our developers.
I feel like that's a role that's often missed when those of us get started on a new project. We have kind of people who want to do this, people who want to do that, and we forget about kind of the person who ties it all together and makes sure things are actually running, in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, totally. Like it's developing a video game. There's a lot of things to do. So when I'm actually pounding on the keys, in the code, making assets and stuff like that, having somebody to facilitate, like whether it is making sure that we get this file from this one contractor and it's in the right format. From that to even just finding the right type of person, like for us to do contracting, like the role of the project manager is so important. So when I started this, I was like, it's not possible. At least I couldn't do it without somebody, next to me, be able to, have the vision while, see the forest from the trees, what they say.
So what made you decide like this game now? Like, what was it? You said you phoned up your. I love that you phoned up your friend. He's like, yeah, sure, I'm with you. That's faith, man.
Right. So I mean, like I said before, this game was supposed to be like a 2 week game to move on, like just to get basically just learn the ropes of game development, go from start to finish on something really tiny, a mobile game. That game was actually called Color Bunny. The purpose of the game, you're like this little tiny bunny. You're supposed to run through these color logs, and you're supposed to change colors, and it's supposed to be just really fun and exciting, simple. Um, but what happened was is that in the first couple weeks, I had somebody actually go and animate a bunny to for the game, and it was a 2D bunny. It came out terrible. So at that point, like I said, I'm not really an artist. I was like, okay, well, what's something I can make that doesn't require a running animation? So we changed the game over to a spaceship. So it was a spaceship flying through these colored hoops, changing colors and stuff like that. But as we started iterating on it, it just gave us the opportunity to really like do something that we wanted to that was fun at that point. So we went back to the drawing board. We added abilities to the player so they can do special things. And now that they have abilities, like, well, let's add some more stages. Let's add a story. Let's add some bad guys, bosses, all that stuff. So at one point, I would say that happened within probably the first like 6 months of the project.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, well, let's not make this an iPhone game anymore. Like we have the means, we have the will. Let's go ahead and like go for a full release video game. Um, so that's what we're doing.
And the rest is history.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things I found really interesting in asking you a little bit about your game is, okay, the game is Chroma Shift Remnant, right? Which is kind of an updated title. Am I correct on that?
It is, yep.
And then we're going to talk a little bit more about it for sure. We're going to see some of it a little bit later and all that kind of stuff. But what would be your elevator pitch? What's this game about?
Oh, for the most part, this game's about the desperation to survive. It's the will to run the gauntlet, so to speak, and the player must do this. They have to do this in what we like to call a survey ship. It has no weaponry and only defensive abilities, and that's fueled by the harnessing the power of color.
Right. Which is a really unique way of like, organizing a game, or a really neat way to frame your gameplay.
Oh yeah. So with having a game that doesn't require, or that one restriction is that, hey, like, this is a space game, but we're not going to use any guns, or at least the player's not going to use any guns. Like, what can we do to make a game fun like that? So what we whipped up, we believe is a great take at that. The player has a lot of defensive abilities that you have to learn how to use in a manner that that can be offensive when you need it, or can be avoided, or can be just straight defensive. So
That is really, really a unique way to look at it. We have some screenshots you shared. We're just gonna let them run through. We can keep talking, and if you see anything you want to talk about, we can always do that too. But I think this is just gonna run through some of those screenshots that you sent with us, so people can take a look at what you guys have got so far. Which is this some of the newer, or is this some of the because I know that you've been working on updating the look a little bit.
yeah, so the demo that we have today is the same level here, but definitely much more updated than this.
Much more realized.
This demo is called the level is called Ash. It's the remnants of a ship graveyard of a large battle that happened in the past. So you and your team head into the graveyard in order to find a device to help you get to the next area of the story.
Fantastic. So with kind of a niche or unique gameplay, it's not an easy game to put in a nice little box. It's not nice, neat. You're not making, a battle royale where there's this trope and that thing and this, and you plug in your neat ideas and it's done. It kind of has some unique qualities when you're trying to develop a game with some unusual kinds of gameplay. What kind of challenges, solutions, ideas have you had to come up with?
Yeah, so like, from the look of the game, like you see a screenshot, you might immediately think of a game like, like R-Type or Gradius or something along that lines where it's almost like a bullet hell type game where but in this game it's not actually any of that. um, I would put it more along the lines of what you would see in like a platformer or an adventure game where where you're moving around these environments and in what we like to call like world space versus something like a screen space where the enemies just come out of the screen in the background, like you're almost like floating on top of everything. In this game, you're actually traveling through the environments. Um, so when you combine stuff like that mixed with like utilizing the color system. I guess the one thing about the color system is that it's not. Well, how do I want to say it? Um, People are, other games may use color as more like a label to something. So like, um, for example, a game like Ikaruga, you can switch from black to white. But in simple terms, it just means mode one or mode two, and depending on what mode you are, you're better or worse against enemies. Where in Chroma Shift, we use the actual color wheel. So you have like red, green, blue as the primary the primary colors for light. And then you can mix those colors to reach, purple, yellow, cyan. And depending on what color you are, you might be what stronger against, like if you're purple, you might be stronger against red and blue, but it puts you at a disadvantage against things that are green because they're not using that primary color. And that basically permeates throughout the whole entire game from uh, what obstacles, how they react. Some obstacles may react faster or slower depending on what color you are. Some obstacles um, you can totally bypass depending on what color you are. Some things might become more aggressive, stuff like that. Yeah.
So people are gonna have to pay attention to what colors they're currently kind of accessing, if for lack of a better word, and how that impacts gameplay and how that impacts what they're able to do and how they're able to make it work. What did that do for your like your game design and your how you design the gameplay?
Well, it's it's a challenge. Long story short, but when you design a game that uses pretty much all of the colors, it removes the ability to use color for things that would normally be used for like I guess to signify something, right? So like say in Zelda or some other platformer, you get hit and your character flashes red for a few seconds because that's the color of losing your life. You can't really do that in this game because red is a color that you also use for your benefit. So
Mechanics
when
of the game
yeah,
are using
so
red. Yeah.
um, so when it comes to like user experience, UI, and stuff like that, we have to be careful on how we think about you know showcasing something or how else do I want to say it? Uh, yeah, whether we're showcasing something or how we display something on the screen because color it means something. So um, if you have certain text or something on the screen, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to stuff like that.
So the interesting thing about this game when we first started out was we were worried that the game would be too easy, and we quickly found out that it could often be pretty difficult. And the game is intended to be very difficult. Um, but as a result, uh, having these unique features to the game has been kind of a double-edged sword, I would say.
Yeah,
So while we're a game company that likes to do unique things to use new types of features or um, use classic gameplay in a different manner than traditional. It's also been it can also be a pretty big thorn in your side too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
A good
imagining.
example of
Oh,
that
go ahead.
is how we originally had our color system. So in the game, you can acquire a red core, a blue core, or a green fusion core, and that will dictate what colors you're able to shift into. So if you have a blue core and a red core, that means you can shift into red, you can shift into blue, you can also shift into purple. But you didn't have a green core. So if you got hit with it by an enemy that required a green core, it would just immediately like kill you at that point. And we discovered that that was a little too brutal, especially when it comes to trying to manage all the different colors and at the speed that you're moving at in the game. It was just a lot more difficult. So um, what we actually landed on is a little bit better, where you actually now have a life system. Your life system is tied into your it's tied into your abilities. It's also tied into pretty much like how you get the you have a fusion battery. So the fusion battery goes from 0 to 100. It recharges depending on how many cores you have in your system. But when you're using abilities like a barrel roll or a boost or like a one of your other shields or something like that, it takes away some of that battery. So now you're managing using your battery in order to perform maneuvers, but also making sure you conserve enough so if you do take a hit, you can survive it. So it looks a lot, or it sounds a little bit more complicated than it seems, but it actually made it a lot easier and a lot more fun to play because now it's not like you're doing great and then instantly you're dead and you have to start the level over now. So it gives you a little bit of tension.
A little bit of resource management happening there. And in
Yeah,
some ways probably more realistic when you're talking about a ship than having, a hit point and a stamina system. When you're talking about a
right.
ship, the two of them could be pretty highly related. Like if you're looking for reality there, right? Like um I was just thinking back to the colors and I was thinking about one of the things that I'm really passionate about because I don't have a lot of video game literacy is the concept of video game literacy and how when I'm getting people to teach me games, sometimes they're speaking a language I don't speak. It's getting a little better. I've been around Discord and Twitch for a couple years now, so it's getting a little bit better. But I have a gap in my gaming, you guys, that goes from about Nintendo to about 2015. So it's like a 30-year gap in there. And so I'm thinking about like you are having to tap into people's video game literacy, tap into learning to communicate with them, but without using some of the techniques like color, like, a nice little flashing gun that you can go pick up, right? And so have you found some clever ways around that?
So yeah. So when it comes to, well, the main thing for the color is that we go more of a neutral color when it comes to most of our stuff. So we're trying to land on it's a lot of white when it comes to like our UI and stuff like that, just to make sure things are clear for things that you see on the screen. We also designated one color as more of a system color, which is gold. So when playing around and like experimenting with all these colors, I found that gold is a significantly what do I want to say impactful color when it comes to looking at the screen. Like you can tell the difference between yellow and a gold, uh, where a lot of the other colors would still like kind of blend in gameplay wise. So that helped us you know that helped us realize our UI. And I mean you're gonna see the demo today, and the UI is really basic right now, so you'll uh, it won't look that great, but you'll see a few things of what we're thinking about in that manner.
So for those of
Yep.
us who don't know, UI is,
UI, user interface.
thank you.
So
No,
the buttons, the meters for your life system. When you go to, like, in our game specifically, to select a color, you'll see a little pop-up of what color you can choose. Like, all those are user interface elements that need to be you have to be aware of when playing the game.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm curious about is there going to be an option for people who are colorblind?
Yes. So that's something that we've talked about since the beginning, because when you make a game about color, like, if you're colorblind, it makes it almost impossible to play it unless you have some type of system that can configure these colors. So um, while we'll be creating some in-house color schemes for the game, one of our plans is to allow players to go in the settings of the game, select a specific color like red, labeled red, and then adjust it to whatever hue, saturation, and luminosity that you want in order to be able to create a color scheme for yourself as a player who may be colorblind.
So people are going to be able to customize that option so that they can figure out like what they can actually, hey, I can actually differentiate this red and green.
Yeah.
And so I'll be able to set it for myself. That is, I really love that idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, if you think about it from, like, my perspective, right? Like, if somebody who's colorblind goes and shift all the colors, like, and I play it, it might look weird, right? But, like, to me, I mean, it's not for me, right? Like, it's for that specific player and what they can visualize. So it, the screenshot or whatever the case like that may look funky to me, but, like, to them, it provides the opportunity to play this game that otherwise you couldn't. So yes, it's definitely one of my if it's basically the top of my wish list. Like, we're gonna definitely put in some color schemes in there, but, like, if you can get that the color creator, that's gonna definitely be, um,
That'll be a win.
yeah.
So for those who've never been, I can't say I've ever been involved in game development. What's life like at your studio when you're working on the game or when you're putting ideas together?
Well, um, it's honestly, it's great. I mean, this is what I wanted to do my whole life, is be a game developer. So, like, when I'm here doing the game dev stuff, it's great. But with that said, there are trying times, especially when it comes to, like, setting yourself with a deadline, and you want to get yourself, or you want the build or the demo to look just right for the next show or whatnot. But you have these wants, and then you also have, like, life, because I don't do this full time. This is what I would say my third job. So, like, mixing life with what you want, like, time constraints. um but other than that, like, the times where me and Matt are sitting here, me, Matt, and Rainer are sitting here discussing designs. We're discussing problems and how to solve them. Um, we're hashing through, like, how the story is going to be basically unfolded to the player from the player's perspective. Like, when we're all in there, like, on the whiteboard, my notepad, like, scribbling things down, is the most exciting. It's the most exciting time ever. But then you have to also go and, like, put that stuff together, right? So you have like these peaks, and then you have the valleys when you're in the middle of a feature that you were really, really, really excited about 3 months ago, but now you're hitting some random bug, that it might be a random bug, or this might be something that's is incompatible with what you made like 6 months ago. Um, but you just have to work through it. Like, you either work through it or you just stop making the game. And
That's
so
not an option.
right. So it does get harsh. It gets hard. Like, you have that self-doubt on whether or not you can achieve it or whatnot. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. You'll get through it. We've gotten through it plenty of times. Um,
There's
but
also a lot of conversation because when you're throwing around ideas, it can quickly get out of hand with all the cool stuff you want to come up with. But at the end of the day, this game has to finish at some point. So um, we are also constantly in conversation with about, is this feature valuable enough to put in there, and is it worth the time for, and sometimes money, to get done. So that's what we call feature creep, is when you just keep adding features and the game never finishes basically. So yeah, that's a big part of our conversations in the studio as well.
yeah,
OmniPixel Gaming is a joint venture with an owner's team of 7. And so I hear you very loud and clear about the excitement of the ideas and all the things we want to accomplish. And those kind of things. So I really hear you. So typically there's 2 or 3 of you working on it. You have a bit of a few extra people on your team too, right? That are supporting the game and supporting some of your endeavors. And so do you all come together? Does it tend to be more digital? How does that tend to work?
yeah. So in the last year or so, it's all been remote. Besides myself and Matt. Um, but before that, we used to get together fairly regularly. And our team size is what, like 5 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, there's me and Matt. Then there's Raymond, who's our programmer as well, and then there's Kristen and Logan doing community support and then art um, in that respect. So when things are going full steam ahead, we like to get together regularly if we can, at least once a month or whatnot. But otherwise, every Wednesday, every Sunday, and sometimes every Thursday, me and Matt are sitting right next to each other, banging this thing out.
So, I mean, one of the things that someone was just mentioning is that they played this game at a game expo. What's it like to kind of pick up your stuff and present at an expo like that?
So so going to the expo is oftentimes a stressful affair, even though it's supposed to be something you're really supposed to enjoy, right? It's like it's the reward for the work you put into this thing. But just getting there, making sure that everything is perfect, or we custom built a booth out of wood that is quick to assemble, quick to tear down, so that we can have those hue lights that you guys will see in the demo inside there, and the player can experience it as if they're playing in their living room. So, uh, but once everything is set up and we've gone through a run through and made sure there's no problems. There's always problems in the beginning, but once those are all worked out, it's fun to chat with people that come by. It's great to get feedback, whether it's of course constructive feedback, stuff we can act upon. And a lot of the changes we've made through the game over the years has come from those people that have come to the expo and given us some really good feedback on that stuff. And that's what we really value. We really enjoy watching people play, seeing a smile on their face, and getting, an honest opinion of what they're experiencing.
Yeah, like to see, a couple of kids like either fighting over a controller or like just sitting there oohing and eyeing as another one is playing the game is like the best feeling ever. That's why I do this. That's why we're here to do this. So um, whatever stress we have, like at the end of the day, when we see that, it all seems worth it.
Absolutely. I personally am just going to tell you, I thought it was really funny. The look on Matt's face is kind of the logistics person, it sounds like, from your team. When I asked about that, he's like, oh man, you just see it. It's like a little trauma brought up again. I apologize for that. But I know those things are kind of on hold for the next little while, right? So
Right. Yep.
I totally get
Like
that.
for most conventions, like you think about like, if it's a 3 day convention, it's like 3 days of like very little sleep, like on your feet all day. But like if you're thinking about it for like perspective, like when we have to do our build, it's like the 7 days before that we're also like of no sleep because we're making sure that everything that we need for the convention, whether it's in the game build or like outside of the game build, also needs to be prepared. So we're already, when we walk through the door for the first day, like 7 days behind and in whatever energy that we would have. So
And is there this
it's
thing that happens where it's like you just want to get that last feature working really well for this thing? Like just one more thing, you know?
uh,
Yeah.
I actually started to coin my term for when that happens because I'm the one touching the things most of the time. So um, I I get lost in the code is what I consider it. Like I'll be building something and then like an idea will come into my head. And I'm like, oh, that's simple to do. 1, 2 keystrokes. Oh, that works. And then like a bug happens. And next thing I know, like I'm in the middle of a forest in some freaking pit of trying to create something new for the game. But it as Matt was talking about before, feature creep is it's a real thing, and that's why I have him and other people to help because like I would feature creep the heck out of everything because I'm sitting there with every nut and bolt in the game twisting and turning. So
Yeah. We also get we also have some people around us that aren't really involved in the day-to-day building of the game or for that part really anything within our company, but they've always been great support and coming out and helping us kind of run the booth, um, kind of giving us a break to kind of take a deep breath and just kind of take in the sights, for I guess you could say, so to speak.
You know, I'm just gonna say this as someone who does something very different, but I mean the reality is gaming community is kind of a parallel venture to what you're doing in some ways. This is you can't underestimate those people who are coming out to support you, who are offering to help. You know, the staff members who do the extra stuff that you just don't have time to do. When I usually talk to people before they come on the show, guys. So we were talking a little bit about how long they've been working on this game, and Leo had kind of an interesting math. It was, I mean, new math, no, but it was really legitimate. Around, yeah, it started in 2015, which sounds like it was 6 years ago. But if you're working on it one day a week, it's only been about a year. You know, if you think about it that way. So I mean, that's a
yeah,
lot of work to get done on your spare time.
so like it feels like because emotionally, yeah, I mean it's been 6 years, like that hasn't changed, but like when you break it down into man hours, yeah, like we're very much in the early stages of the project, and like some of the things that we iterated through, it may take a year or two to iterate through. If you think about a full size company or just a team working on it full time, they would have ran into like certain issues we would have ran into, like month 2 or month 3, and they would have got them done in month 4 or month 5, just because they had that concentrated block of time. So one thing I've always thought about as I guess a spectator before I got into myself is like you see and you hear about other indie companies and you say, oh, why did that game take 9 years to make? Why did that game take 6 years to make? And then you find out why. Like because in order to do that in a 2 year time span as an indie company without without bringing any money in, like you have to sacrifice everything. Like it's work, work, sleep, work on the game. And That's one thing we wanted to avoid, is burning ourselves out, like that. So especially for our first project. So
Um, and you guys, when you went to some of those showcases, you won some awards.
yeah, so you know we won 2 awards. Um, they were both for what was it again? It was the Southwest Video Game Showcase. It was 2017, 2018 Audience Choice Award. Yeah. So, um, winning that, 2 years in a row was it was great. So exciting. It's nice to have those accolades. It's nice to know that other people enjoy what you're putting together, especially enough to help you win an award. So
Then I think it was last year, I got an email saying we had been nominated for this Corporate Vision Award, most innovative indie game developer in the Southwest. And at first, I thought this had to be a scam or something, because we didn't submit anything. So somebody else must have uh, gave us a nod, so to speak. So, but no, it was legit. We ended up winning that award too, which was really awesome, especially in the year where nobody expects to win anything. So nice surprise.
That is fantastic. I mean, one of the things I look for from the indie game development companies is that innovation. That like I think big companies kind of get stuck in like I said, developing the battle royale. Where okay, what are our characters? What are our weapons? What are our environments? What are our power ups? Go, right? Like it's a pretty formulaic in a lot of ways. Not that people don't like playing those, it's fine, but you guys have the ability to kind of think outside the box. So I love that you guys were most innovative, and also, I mean, when it was the attendees choice award kind of thing. Hey, those are the people who are going to buy the game.
yeah,
If they're the ones who like it, like that's a good sign. That's a fantastic sign. Someone a little while ago in chat asked about integration. And you've kind of alluded to integration. Now, I will tell you, I mentioned I was going to talk to y'all to my owner's team, and one of them immediately said something that you kind of said too. They're like, "Whoa, it's like visual surround sound." And so, can you talk a little bit about the integration that you guys have going on?
yeah. So our game is integrated with the Philips Hue light system. That's why you see the 2 purple lights behind me now. So when we demo the game, you'll be able to see um, how the game or how the lights react to the game. So um, the lights will change colors depending on the types of enemies that you're around and the types of environment that you're in. There's actually 2 lights behind me, and then there's a light that's in front of us behind my monitor. So you might not really be able to see that one too much, but when you're playing the game, it really becomes immersive in a different way than like you would in VR. And like you said, you landed it right there with the visual surround sound. Um, it's it's awesome, to say the least. That's why in our when we did our showcase at the conventions, we built that booth because it was we built a 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot by 7 foot booth, blocked out all the light so we can put our own lights in there and people can sit there and play and see all the colors of space and stuff like that going off, especially when you're in a really bright convention center. So
Yes. I think we actually have a little footage of that. I know you're going to demo it live for us a little later in the stream here, but do we want to have a quick look at what you sent us from video clip that you sent us? So I believe this was at, yeah, there's your box, right?
yep.
uh,
A, a early version of the game, so you'll be able to kind of compare that to
mhm.
what you'll see soon.
Oh yeah, we can already see from the pictures that there's been a lot of work done on some of the assets for sure.
Oh yeah.
So quite
The
a bit.
playership alone has gone through at least 3 iterations.
That is amazing, and it's amazing that you guys put together that whole thing to lug with you out to the convention, out to the showcases, all that kind of stuff. So, how easy is it to do the integration from both the user point of view and from the program point of view?
They're both relatively easy, but I guess from the programming point of view, it was a matter of I saw online that other developers were working on this. So one actually provided an API that already connected to the hue lights. And then at that point, it was more about me just utilizing it in a manner that was exciting and useful for our game. There's been other video games out there that do utilize it, some to varying different degrees. I think like Call of Duty uses it. Like the newest Call of Duty on PC uses it in a very interesting way. But there's other games that might just use it more as like a mood ring type feeling. Um, but from the user's perspective, if you have the hue lights and the hue hub in your house, from the perspective of the user, you just go to the settings, you connect your Hue hub to the game. You can either do it by IP address or it has an automatic search. So you just press the hub and it'll connect. You select which lights you want to be active.
Oh, that's a good feature. In case your whole house is.
Yep, you select which lights you want to be active, and then at that time, the game will assign them to where they need to be, and you rock on. So it'd be up to you as the player on exactly where you want to position your lights, but our game utilizes one active light, which is the one in front of you, and then a left and a right light. So for things that appear on the left side or the right side of your ship. So that's how we utilize it.
Y'all know I was just imagining someone playing a game in the basement and like their mom upstairs in the dining room with the light like flashing different colors. So I'm really glad you get to pick which lights are going.
When I'm testing the game, it kind of feels that way. Like you can see off my balcony, like random lights going off in the house, stuff like that. There's even a little cool feature I made just for the heck of it to flash like police lights, like red and blue. So like you can look into my apartment sometimes and it's like everything's going off red and blue.
People are like, that guy has the quietest disco in the whole world.
Right.
Going on in his place. Yes, I was imagining the whole house flashing completely. All right. As I was thinking, we'll take a quick break. We'll take a 5-minute break, get a drink, do that kind of stuff. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about kind of learning along the way. We'll talk about those kind of things. We'll get, I believe it's Leo who's going to be playing the game live. So you're going to get to see the head dev actually playing the game. He discouraged me from playing it. So no, I'm kidding. We had this conversation. He's like, it's a tough game to learn. I'm like, no, it's okay. So we'll be back in like 5 minutes and we'll do some of those things then. Welcome back. We had a little break. We've had some very, very serious stuff going on in chat as far as gifted subscriptions. Welcome, Stoic. Enjoy your emotes. We've had a couple follows happening. I think Dune C Punk was one. We had some gifted subs. Dune, enjoy your emotes. Banjo, give one to Valcon. Let's see. Oh, Little Herdez subscribing 6 months, a 6-month streak. Wow. And Banjo Fever's on a 3-month streak. And then we just have 5 gift subs. AZ Beauty, who was new to us today, who's also a follower today, and several other people getting some subs. And so Romeo following looks like I think maybe a guy that played game might have followed earlier today too. So thank you very much for all of that, y'all. All that stuff just kind of reinforces what we're doing. And, you know, makes me remember that I have a really great guest on. So before break, we were kind of talking a little bit about what it means to, you know, what the game's like, what it's meant for development and that kind of thing. We talked a little bit about the Hue Light integration. So if you all didn't get a chance to watch this will go on YouTube later, by the way. So if you're just getting here, definitely. My camera froze. Oh, good. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Here we are. We're here.
Yeah, there we go.
Yay! I mean, it was so close. I didn't even accidentally mute myself, which is usually what happens at some point. I'm just muted and I start getting these messages, Tree Frog, we can't hear you. So then it sounds like the guest is speaking to themselves.
As a photographer, every photo shoot that I go on, I trip on something. It doesn't matter how small. It always happens. It's just my thing now. I just own it.
Is photography your day job?
Photography is my second job.
Your second job. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a web development manager as my first job at a company in Scottsdale, Arizona.
So does that explain the really slick website y'all have?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's too great, but you know,
it's pretty slick
for
people who are having to take care of these things on their spare time, so to speak, right? It's a pretty good one.
Thank you.
So, do you guys want to get into some gameplay?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Are you hearing that?
Looks like yes. Yes, we are. And we're seeing it too. So that's good. I'm busy looking over here. No one can see me anymore.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start the demo real quick.
Yeah. Now we know it's a work in progress. We know we might run into a few bugs, a few things that happen. So
this is a prototype that we call Ash.
What is this place? Annie, initialize sector scan.
Scanning. Analyzing data. Debris field consisting of 14,684 spacecraft in orbit around 2 Stigma-class terrestrial planets. Active frequency detected from communication device forward 100 kilometers.
Ash is a larger debris field than I had initially thought. I suspect that there is some ancient tech here that can help increase accuracy with wormhole jumps. The phase matter transcriber is critical to the mission.
Let's hope there's one even still intact.
I hope so. Focus on the larger vessels. We're more likely to find an operational PMT there.
So, you want to pop up the color selector?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and stop real quick.
We have a color selector here. This is what you would pop up to shift in different colors. We always wanted a very minimal user interface, and this allows the player to pop it up without it taking up a lot of space, and they can change colors very quickly with a flip of the directional button.
This is utilizing the right analog stick.
Okay.
The left one is for moving. Right one's for color selection. So
it's really designed to be played with a controller for the most part. Is that the case?
It is 95% designed for the controller. I know Raymond likes to play on it with the keyboard and mouse, so we do have some keyboard and mouse controls right now. But as we get further in development, we'll have a full set so you can switch between keyboard and mouse and controller, take care of everything.
I love a game that's been optimized for a controller, that's for sure. And so right now this ship is equipped with all the colors.
Yes. So we start off in this demo with access to all the colors. So like I said, red, green, blue as the primary colors, and then yellow, purple, and cyan as the secondary colors. And they're positioned in a manner where it makes logical sense that, blue and green, in between them is cyan, purple's in between red and blue, yellow's in between red and green. Just to make it a little bit easier on your mental load of like where things are when you're trying to shift colors and select the right thing that you want in the middle of all the craziness that can go on.
Absolutely.
One thing that is a major change from the videos that you guys seen is that we've given the player more control of the actual ship. So in our earlier gameplay, you would constantly go forward. So whatever the all right, screen's flipping out real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you constantly go forward, and that was a little bit more difficult for some players to understand, like, what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to do it. It just didn't make much sense from a gameplay perspective, from an actual like joystick. When the game originated as a mobile app, like an endless runner, it made total sense just to make the player move forward.
Right.
But as Matt was saying, with every convention that we went to, we got more player feedback, and now we've landed on a control system that we're really excited about, and that we're looking to take to completion of the actual game.
Right.
So, with that said, you have full range of movement, up, down. You can go backwards. You can go forwards. And with up, down, you have a quick barrel roll that you can do. We have added a little backdash. As you'll see, there's going to be times where you're going to full stop on a break. And then we have the ability to dodge and stuff like that.
Right.
One of the things I wanted to show you is that here's one of the aspects of how the color works. So we're near the scanner here, and because we're yellow, the scanner doesn't really, basically doesn't threaten us as much. But if we switch to a color like blue, when it gets close enough, it should start hunting us. And maybe it's doing the opposite right now. All right. Well, I guess that's
okay. Yeah.
like I wanted to, but yes. Essentially, when you're a color that's not yellow, it should then come after you. But we'll keep moving.
Yeah.
So Ash is more of a late game sector. So we call all our levels sectors, as in sectors of space. So this would be a late game sector that would be more difficult. Here for this demo, we have really maybe only about a quarter of the entire sector that will run through the first quarter.
Right. And we're encountering something here.
So this is this pink nebula actually will slow the player down. So as I move through it, I get slowed. But if I switch over to the purple color, I actually can move through it at full speed. So it's another one of those obstacles that will affect you depending on how fast or what color you are. So
wow.
Keep moving forward.
These here are fusion cores. This particular one contains all three, red, blue, and green. And if you take hits, you can lose some of those fusion cores. This is how you would reacquire them.
And then that yellow guy over there is what we call a hunter drone. So as we pass by them, they'll start to basically track where you are and then run at you. Depending on what color you are, they'll track faster or slower towards you.
So now those are yellow.
So you say again?
Those were yellow, right?
Yes, those are yellow. Yeah, yellow.
And so would they affect you more or less when you're yellow?
So they still will affect you. They'll still attack you. If you were to get hit by one of the, they would take your cores that correspond to yellow. So if you got hit by something that's yellow, it would take both the red and the green core from you. The difference with that enemy when you're yellow is that they're a little bit slower to come at you.
Okay.
If you're like blue or whatnot, they would track and they would move a lot faster.
Right.
So this obstacle right here is what we call the seeker trap. So I'm gonna pass by it fairly quickly. And oh, doesn't work either for some reason. So it would spawn basically homing mines that would come after you. So let's figure out what's going on with those. All right, let's move through here a little bit faster now. So we have this trap here. This is the photon cannon. If you pass by it, it'll shoot a rocket, and they're really fast. So as we get further down the level, you'll see the combination of all these things just become like utter chaos later.
Yep. So when you're a ship kind of glowed yellow there, was it because you got hit? Or was it just letting us know?
No, so the actual ship, one of its defenses is a shield. So depending on what color, or at any color, you can change the color and you can press the right trigger to activate the shield. And this will give you an extra layer of protection from enemies of that same color. So for instance, like if you got hit by the yellow hunter drone and you didn't have your shield up, it would take away your cores. If you activated your shield and you ran through it, you wouldn't sacrifice any of your fusion cores to do so. You just basically you just kill the enemy and move on.
Right.
So a lot of basically the strategy comes. So I talk and play. So I lost my green core. So I no longer have access to switch to cyan, green, or yellow. I can still switch to red, purple, and blue. In this level, it's probably not that big a deal right now. But if I was to lose my red or my blue core, then I wouldn't be able to change to purple. And with all the this gas around, it'd probably really be real negative effect to me.
Restock here with the fusion cores.
So I'll grab those fusion cores, and now I have access to the color of the game.
So you could like Top Gun it and make it through if you had to without them, but you're gonna be in big trouble.
So, for someone who's played the game a lot, I can go at full speed and for the most part and be okay. But we also just made this build and we made some new changes to the level, so getting through some things might be a little bit more difficult. And I wish all those guys were working, but
they're gonna work tomorrow,
of
like just
course,
randomly.
As soon as this meeting's over, they're gonna work. So let's see.
So mostly some of the elements are not in place for this particular ash sector yet. This would be more intended for more of a horror type setting, where you would be you'd be stalked by a more or less a boss. We call them the HKX, and there's a lot of story and stuff that goes into that as well. But we won't spoil anything.
Yes, definitely important. Not. I think someone's asking for a barrel roll in chat.
Barrel?
Or maybe they were commenting that you did one.
Okay. So yeah, we added these controls. So you can do these crazy maneuvers, and depending on the level, like this one's a little bit more slow pace. But there'll be, times where you're going at breakneck speed because there's something chasing you from behind, but you still have to be able to maneuver fairly quickly. So one of the bigger strategies behind this level or any level is the management of the opposing colors, right? So you don't really see the difficulty in this level here because all of the things that that are supposed to be chasing you fast, the blue seeker traps, aren't working. So I don't really have to go fast. Doesn't make me want to make mistakes or anything like that. So I'm just avoiding everything that I could normally avoid in this situation.
Right.
Unfortunately.
But if they were working, one of the things that would happen right there is you'd have to decide, do I want to be blue and have those things be a little gentler? Do I want to be purple and be able to move? Do I want to be yellow and have those little mines not chasing me? Right? You're going to have to be making that choice kind of constantly. Oh.
So that was the end of the demo.
Fantastic. Anyone have any questions from chat? Someone asked if can mad maneuvering skills get you beyond the use of cores in most instances.
So the answer is at this time, yes. We wanted to make sure that we had a good balance of it, though. We want people to be able to achieve success in the game by doing a lot of avoidance, or if you're somebody who's really in tune with the color strategy, you can also get through the game as well. So it has like your own play styles depending on which one you're more in tune with.
Yeah. I mean, some of the abilities are not yet operational, but once we get them in there, you'll have an ability that we just call it armor right now. It'll kind of allow you to be more tanky, a little slower, but more tanky for those players that like to go about accomplishing their goals that way. And then there's also a teleport ability that helps the player that likes to be really agile and move around and use those twitch skills to kind of avoid uh, threats in the game. And then there's also a time slip ability, which allows you to kind of slow down time. I guess you could say, kind of like bullet time. Um, but those will be some of the abilities that you can use to kind of accomplish your goals in the manner that is best suited for your skills. So
Right.
there's a lot of different ways to play the game. But for most sectors, the threats are laid out in a way to where you would be required to pick which group of threats that you wanted to that you thought you could get around the easiest. So if you're missing a certain color core, you might go to a different group of enemies rather than the other one where you would be more vulnerable. Or depending upon the abilities that you like using, certain encounters might be much more difficult than other ones. So there is a bit of strategy that goes into surviving the game, basically.
Yeah.
The idea of a slow tank really appeals to me.
Right. So, for instance, for that level, there's the option to go fast, and if you really want to go fast, you want to select the purple color. You can avoid all the nebula gas that you would have to that would slow you down. But in turn, if you were quite capable of handling, you know, the other things that are basically going to stop you, if you can handle those with color, then you can be like, okay, I'll go fast. And I just have to think about when this color shows up to make sure I can defend against it and blow through the rest. whereas another player would be like, well, I might run into all the walls, and the walls, something like a piece of debris will come flying out and like will just kill me, right? So I just want to go slower. But in going slower, I'm like, okay, well, now that I'm going slower, don't have to worry about the walls and stuff crashing into me. But I just want to make sure that I'm sticking to yellow because I want to avoid, or I want to deal with the hunter drones that are coming after me. So
Absolutely. So there's a couple questions that have coming up in chat. One is, how long do you expect most players to take to complete the story? Which might be, is that still a question mark?
yes, at this time, it's still a question mark. I can say we're hovering around, as far as levels concerned, somewhere around in between the 16, 12 to 20, 16 range. So depending on how long those levels are, will decide how long the game is. For instance, for that demo that you saw, that was just one scene of 3 that would contain that level. So you would start on outside. You would go into like a massive carrier ship, and then at the end of the level, there's actually a boss that accompanies that level. So
Wow. Someone asked if there's a time element for potential speedrunners.
yes. So I don't know if you noticed on the top right hand of the corner of the screen, there was a timer for the level. And we also do keep track of time for your whole playthrough. So speed running is one of the things that I'm never good at, but I know some will enjoy, especially because the game, can be played like really fast. So it's something I want to have for them.
Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. People are talking a little bit about, replayability and that kind of thing, that they're pretty excited to see that it has the options to try lots of different ways. And also your dog is making waves in chat right now, just so you know.
Oh, Dexter.
Oh, he's like, you've been
Well,
looking
here
at
we
that
go.
computer forever.
Oh, this is
Does he program
Dexter.
with you?
No, he's quite the opposite. He tells me to stop programming by clawing at my feet and jumping into my lap and forcing me to take a break from the screen. So
Healthy work-life balance. Look at that.
He
Yes.
enforces breaks.
yes, he's the break enforcer.
That is good. We all need one of those. So Fry asked if the dog is also a game dev, and I would say yes. It's the HR person making sure we don't overwork the staff too much, right? So you all have alluded to this a little bit. Get the dog a game a dev shirt. I love it. You've kind of alluded to kind of the changes you've made along the way and some of what you've learned. And I'm curious kind of some of the things you've learned along the way as you've been going through this process, through trial and error, through figuring out what works, all those kind of things.
Yeah. So like, when I started this game, I wasn't I wasn't a coder for video games. I've never programmed a video game before, and with straight code. Back in the day, I used to use like the visual code editors. The first, I guess, the engine I was running on before Unity, was Multimedia Fusion 2, if anybody remembers that. But when I decided to jump on this project, I was like, I want to be a real programmer. So I started from scratch with that. With that, it also meant that when I developed something and then I ran into a roadblock later, that I had to come back and rewrite it. And that can be, I mean, it's a great learning experience, but sometimes it can slow progress down.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a love-hate relationship with it. But that's definitely one of the things, like learning. It's like learning on the job. But overall, I am a learn on a job type of person, so
Not
it
bad.
wasn't too far out of my realm, I guess.
Yeah, we also learned pretty quickly too that it's pretty important to track your progress as far as what. So we take the tasks that are most important, that we would consider most important to the player, those elements that go into playability or features, and we prioritize those over other not so important tasks along the way. And what that does is it keeps us tuned into what we're supposed to be doing. It's so easy to kind of shift away. Like you find a bug here. That's not what we're working on, but then you go and you try and fix that, and then it just drags out the development process. So when we have a set of tasks that have to be accomplished within a certain period of time, it just keeps you focused, and you lose less time kind of straying from the path, I guess you could say.
Kind of that oh
Yeah.
shiny moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can understand
And
that.
we also learned a lot, like not even development related. Like there's a lot of soft skills. There's a lot of management skills that comes with this position. Working on a video game, being the leaders of it, like when it comes to like finding a contractor to do the right job, like it's there's a whole skill like behind finding the right guy or gal. And then behind that, you have to also be really good at communicating what you want, because if you don't, they'll give you back what they think you want, and that doesn't necessarily always match up. So those are some definite skills that we've learned. Um, there's
Figure out
also,
art stuff.
yeah, I mean, solidifying our art style was taken a while. I mean, we're not artists. I wouldn't consider myself a 3D artist by any stretch of the imagination, but because of that, it was really hard to communicate and figure out what we actually wanted the game to look like. It took a lot of iterations with a lot of different artists, and be able to get to that. Um, and that's one of the things that we apologize to our artists for, because it's I know it's frustrating to some of them sometimes when they're like, "Hey, I have a client doesn't really know what they want, but they want something amazing." Um, so that was a struggle for a while. What else?
Definitely. I think you told me you're on the third version of the player ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're on the third version of that. The first version, was gifted to us by a friend, which was pretty awesome to have somebody spend that time to give you something like that to use. Um, but it didn't meet all of our expectations. So we started iterating on it. And go through one artist, you get it, and you're like, man, this is so much better than the last one. Like, this is great, thank you. You take it, and then you start using it, and then you're like, but it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it doesn't do this, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, let's do it again. Let's get somebody to do this, and this. But you didn't really think about, when you get that one back, you're like, oh man, that's great again. But then you like go down the road and be like, but what about this?
Right.
So at this time, like I said, we're on our third iteration. There's going to be a fourth iteration of the player ship, but at this time, we now know exactly what we need in order to finish the game from the ship. So
And that
most
doesn't
of
even
the
include the ugly bunny, right?
yes, it's definitely um,
Uh,
but yeah, so
mhm.
it going through the iterations is it's a part of the game development process. But it's it's also fun.
Yeah. How have you worked on your team composition? Like you said, there's 5 of you right now, and kind of 2 of you who do a lot of the kind of the primary, and then you have some people who are different roles. How did you decide that? How'd you come up with that?
Mostly out of need, really. The team we have now, we're really lucky to have them, to be honest. We kind of found each other, and we're lucky that they're very dedicated to the project, like we are. When you're a studio that has no money to hire people on, even part-time, it becomes very difficult to track down people that will devote their time to something, um, knowing full well that a lot of games don't make any money to pay back. So for us, it's a lot of people you bring on your team are excited to work on it in the beginning. And then, just like we were talking about earlier, where there's like peaks and valleys to the development process, uh, when you have a lot to look at and stuff to play, it's the high point, it's fun, you get to see the fruits of your labor. And then when you're developing new features or that's heavily code based, there's not a lot to look at. It's kind of grinding through the boring stuff, so to speak, as far as being able to see something. And that's when you tend to lose those team members. um, they just don't survive that process. But the team we have right now has been through many highs and many lows. So we certainly appreciate what they've done.
Yeah, I can completely I can relate to that strongly sometimes. So what are kind of the next phases of the game itself and kind of progress towards release? Like what have you got left? Or what does that look like for y'all?
As you saw, the game still needs to hammer out a few of the standard features to make sure those are all nice and tight. But we're pushing towards a vertical slice that we can actually pitch the game to potential publishers. We feel that once we have funding, we can be able to realize the game and in an easy manner. I don't want to say easy, but in a
Faster.
in a realistic manner. Like I don't want to be working on this game for another 6 years, right? So if we can get funds, then we can look into turning this thing into a 2-year development cycle. Get the artists that we need to jump on to really make the game look like it should. So yeah, we're working full on towards the vertical slice. Once we have that, we're going to pitch mode to see if we can get somebody who believe in us as much as we believe in it. And yeah, go from there.
And have some pockets. For those who don't know, vertical slice means?
Yes. So a vertical slice is, I guess the easy way to say it, it's a demo, short demo, that showcases the game in as good as the game should be on release. So like for instance, instead of making a demo that has the full like level with all the cutscenes, so on and so forth, you do a slice of that level, and then you make sure that everything that you're showing looks great. So the enemy in section 2 might be broken, but all the enemies in section 1 look nice. They look fantastic. They have all their visual effects, all their sound effects. Everything looks nice and perfect. And it's just enough to entice or to hook a potential whoever you're pitching it to. So if it's a publisher or whatnot, to be like, okay, I can see how you realize the game in this short amount of in this short space. Let's take it all the way through. So
Make it a whole game now.
yeah,
It's a big step. we'll look forward to hearing from y'all that's happened.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we reach out once we have that ready. It's once we get it to that point, we definitely love to have people get their hands on it, play it. Let us know your thoughts.
Y'all hear that?
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Always looking for testers for sure. So
Yeah, Boktai hears it. So you all have, I mean, you have quite a few years of experience. You've been building this from the ground up on your own. Any advice for people looking at starting a game development studio?
Yeah, I mean, start small.
yeah.
So do as I say, not as I do. Is that what I just heard?
Yep, definitely one of those. It's so valuable to be able to lock in like a little process or a little sliver of a complete project, and that one, it gives you the knowledge, which is great, but two, it gives you the confidence to know that you can see it through when you do a bigger project. We didn't go that route because I'm just hard headed, and I do have a lot of experience in web development and stuff like that. So I've done bigger projects. So when I actually made the decision to make this a bigger thing, I was like, okay, I know what it's going to take. I know the pain that I'm gonna put myself through, but I'm still willing to do it. So, but if you're just starting in the development world, I would not advise to do that because it can get discouraging. So, pick a feature of a game that you like and build something small around there. Um, there's a lot of good opportunities within the gaming community to explore ideas um, in a relative short projects or relative short time, uh, utilizing game jams anywhere between, I think they have like 24-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour. I think they even do like week-long game jams. I did a few of those when I first started developing. And actually, the project that I really want to work on after this is a game that I started in a game jam. I want to really see to what is it, fruition. So
Right.
those opportunities give you a real good. It's a boost. It's an emotional high. It also allows you to work out the kinks in what an idea could be. Um, get good feedback. Also allows you to gives you that camaraderie or that feeling of being in a community because you put your game out in the game jam, people see it, people comment. You also get to see other people's games and comment. It's a really good time.
Yeah. The importance of connecting with others and kind of joining forces or we're all in this together kind of thing, or shared experience, even if it's a quote unquote competitor, right? It can be very validating to spend time with people who are similar to yourselves and who are doing different things or similar things, right?
Yeah, and like I don't really believe in competitors, especially
Hmm.
at this level, right? Like all most of us are indie. If you're making games that are true to what you want and true to what your customer would want, they're gonna buy them. So there's plenty of gamers out there. Unless you're talking about like making like securing millions or billions of dollars in customers, then you don't really have a true competition. It's like we talked about, or you talked about before with like the battle royales, right? You have like Fortnite and Apex and stuff like that. Like those guys, they don't deviate away from their game designs and their features because they're trying to capture so many people in order to play the game. And we as an independent video game, we just want we get a sliver of those people just to enjoy the game. Like that's a success for me. So one thing I learned pretty quickly when it comes to game development is that um, there's a million and one ideas. Plenty of people have ideas. Like don't be afraid to share your ideas, because you can share your ideas with 100 people, and one person might try to attempt it, but still won't complete it. Like that's how much effort it takes to do it. So if you have something you're really passionate about it and you want to do it and you are doing it, share it with people, because um, the worst is going to happen is somebody tries to do it, but the best thing is people are going to enjoy what you put out there. And the only way to know that is if you let people know. So yeah.
Hell yes. Like I think that, um we're all in this together. I mean, as streamers, I really feel that way. We're all in this together. Our goal is to build each other up and not to try and tear each other down or not try and get in each other's way, but really just building each other up and having people who are like-minded, who can connect with about things. And you can connect and say, hey, I'm running into this. Anyone had that before? And people are like, yeah, I figured that out. It took me a long time. You're like, okay, you willing to share? I mean, you were just willing to share some wisdom with us today. So I know that you're looking for, first of all, 2 questions. Where can we find you? And I hear that you kind of have something you want to put out into the world too, that you're looking for. So if someone in chat could put their stuff in chat, that would be great.
Yeah, so you can find us at our website is chromoshiftgame.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter. It's 7_Sentinels. And Facebook as well is Facebook/7Sentinels. You can, so hit us up on either one of those. Start the conversation, ask us about the game. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah,
Is your
also,
merch for sale?
if you guys are looking for, if you think it's something you would want to dig into as far as help us with the game, if you're an artist, or if you're just inquiring into a need we might have, or if you're press, streamers, anything like that, you can send us emails through info@7sentinels.com, and I'll get it. So I always respond, so you'll get something back.
If you can't find him, connect with me in Discord. I'll make sure you get there.
And to answer your question, we don't have any merch yet, though. I mean, we have some things designed. Like I have this shirt, which is a simple, Chroma Shift sweatshirt, and then we actually have the one that Matt's wearing has all of our characters and stuff on it. But we pretty much got these for our conventions, but we do want to put it out there so people want to support us and have this cool gear. We can set something up like that soon.
Remember when we just talked about staying focused and having ideas and staying in the, I feel like we just sent you a little different direction for the next couple of weeks, because people in chat are looking for those shirts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something to think about. So guys, any other questions for Leo or Matt before we wrap it up? Gonna give them a second to have a look-see. I'm not seeing anything else. I really want to thank you guys for sharing this journey with us. Any inspirations from other games you love? Okay, we do have one.
Oh man, so
It's a good question.
that can send me on a trip for a long time. So yes, I mentioned a couple games before, like Ikaruga, Gradius, R-Type. There's games like Mega Man was a very strong influence for a lot of our game for a while. At one time, the game was very like choose your own level, very what is it called, non-linear. We cut that down a little bit, but it um, it still has some of the those features. Um, but yeah, I take a lot of inspiration from Mega Man. Um, it's just a solid game for when it comes to gameplay. It's clean, um, and it's satisfying. So I love that. Um, what other games do we influence on?
That's the bulk. Those the bulk of the important ones, I would say.
They're loving it.
Yeah, there's one that I just thought of. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it's a feature that we're adding that we haven't talked about. But it does come from Devil May Cry. So it's when it comes to like how we think about what games we use or whatever the case for inspiration, it can come from anywhere. So
Yeah.
as you know, a lover of all games, yeah, my inspiration comes from just about anywhere.
Yeah. There's a question about the possibility of co-op or multiplayer.
Ooh.
Ooh.
At this time, no. Um, it's something that we talked about a while ago, but it's just when it comes to feature creep, that would be one that would knock us out. So, you know, we plan on having some things for, I guess you want to call it DLC or something after the fact to support the game after the main core of its release, but multiplayer is not going to be one of those. Not
Okay.
for this.
We can appreciate that. Is there a plan for something down the road after Chroma Shift? Like,
There is a lot of plans for stuff after Chroma Shift.
okay.
But you know, one thing that me and Matt talked about when we started this game is that we don't want to pump and dump. So like, it's not like we want to kick out Chroma Shift and immediately move over to the next IP or franchise or whatever the case is. Like, if Chroma Shift requires a sequel, then we have thoughts behind it. We really want to make sure that if people love it, we will continue going down that path.
Right.
I see somebody asked about ship customization. Um, that is something that's on our wish list. So it's planned, but it's not a hard sell. So it
Right.
may or may not get cut.
Yep. All right. Chroma Shift Extreme. That's what they want. So if you haven't already checked out Seven Sentinels, make sure you follow them. I'm really hoping that you guys will come back closer to game release, and we can take a look at what's coming. In the meantime, you know, you're connected with us, so if you have anything that comes up, definitely feel free to touch base with us again.
Awesome. We really appreciate the opportunity. Like, it's good to be able to talk to people about our game. And I'm glad you were able to, host us.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We have had a blast. All right. Thank you so much.